Okay, great. So I'm here to talk about designing for mature adults, and it's ageism before design. So I want to get straight into it because 1 in 4 people will be age 60 and above by 2050. And that's astonishing to me. That actually means that is 25% of the population. That is nearly 2 billion people. That's a lot of people if we don't start thinking about how to design for this market. And the problem that I want to kind of talk about today is that despite this aging population, designing solutions that honor this audience's needs still remains neglected. And if it is done, it's kind of done as a secondary afterthought. It's like, oh yeah, we need to, think about this audience that we didn't think about originally. And that's kind of the problem that I want to talk about today with you guys. So, as you know, my name is Stacey. I'm actually basing this talk on my crash course in the Royal College of Arts, where I actually worked with 5 companies, and I helped them improve, develop, or tweak the products they were creating and make them suitable for the older audience. And before I get into it, I know when we think about UX, we still tend to think about UX as digital and apps. But in this situation, I actually thought about UX very broadly. And these are the companies that I worked with, and you can see wayfinding, personal electrical vehicle, home adaptions, scooters, and a guidance app. And thinking about spaces, service design, where it has multiple physical and digital touch points, industrial physical design, digital design, so very, very, very broad when I was thinking about UX in this case. So my talk, I need to click this way. Okay. My talk is going to follow this outline. So why do we have this problem of ageism before design? How did I help these companies solve this problem? And then what steps can we do as people in this industry to overcome this problem and be better at designing products for this audience? So why do we have this problem? That way. We have this problem because historically companies, when they started thinking about, we need to design stuff for people who are above 60, they kind of went into like this crisis mode, which is quite funny. And they also thought, for the old, very, very like judgmental, stereotypical kind of way of thinking about this group. And what do I mean by that? So look, assisted living. These people was thinking, okay, this group, they need assisted living products. Let's create them stuff. And it was all crisis focused. It was like, okay, it needs to be functional. They need it for emergencies. This is it. And look at them. They're quite dreary. They're quite boring. I mean, I don't look at them and think, wow, I want one of these. They really, really, really just don't do it for me. And then look at the world of assisted mobility. This time I'm going to move around, guys. Cool, right? It's just doesn't do it. And then the color blue. I don't know how all of a sudden all these companies thought blue was the in thing. I really don't know. But, for me, when I think of blue, I think of like medical, health, safe. But I don't know if that's the right way to go about it. And then, memory aids. It's not making me feel great about getting older, to be honest. Even if you look at the app itself, it just screams bland, boring memory. It just doesn't do it. So I've got this quote from Don Norman, which kind of captures what I'm trying to say. And it says, what's put in the world is cheap, ugly, engineered products that signify to the world, I'm crippled and old, I can't function well. And the response from the world to people using these products is, I have to speak slow and loudly to you. And think about that. I mean, if we're creating these products and this is the relationship that we're kind of creating for other people to interact with this audience, it's not great. We're meant to be creating great products, great experiences, and this is just a big downfall. The other reason why we have this problem is definitely here in the Western world. There's this kind of society blueprint that when you're 60 and above, you're kind of like this frail, old, withered person in a sofa. You don't need anything exciting. You can't use new technologies. You're not interested in using new technologies. You don't really have any fashion. It's kind of like this thing. It's just not really positive. But actually, if you think about yourself, think about people who in your family who are 60 and above. there's a wide range of diverse needs and varied types of people. And this doesn't say to me, bored, withered away, no style. People using technology, they're quite active, they're happy. It's a completely different way that it's portrayed when we think about this audience group. So that's the problem and why we have this problem. So how did I help others solve this problem? So there's two heroes, because there's 5 companies, and I haven't got time for all 5, but the 2 that I want to talk about is one with this guy called Freddie. Now, Freddie was a very interesting guy. He kind of come up with this product because he had a world-class indoor tracking technology. And he realized that actually, he could help companies. In this particular case, it was Transport for Wales, a rail company. He could help Transport for Wales understand how many people was in the stations, the crowd control, and he can kind of give them information. And then he started to think about, who are the people who avoid crowds? And then it drew him down this path of people who are 60 and above, because they have a high level of anxiety of traveling. When they want to know where the toilets are, they want to know where the lifts are, they want to know if there's going to be a lot of crowds. They just have a high level of anxiety when they're planning their route. So he wanted to create a augmented reality, like journey planning route, so you can go through the station, you can kind of know in advance where these features are. And it was great, but the problem he had is that there was a steep learning curve. Now, myself, I'm not familiar with AR, so to give it to anyone else is going to be a massive learning curve until it's the mainstream. And what he needed to do was really understand and get a bit more empathy of this audience group to try and make this product suitable for them and therefore win the bid with Transport for Wales. So how did I help him do that this way? When he came along, he had all these features and things he wanted to make this app, super powerful app with all these amazing things it was going to do. And I said, okay, well, great. Well, have you spoke to anyone who is above 60 about this app, about this product, and how they're going to use it? And he's like, no. I said, okay, well, that's the first thing we need to do. Let's have some user interviews and some workshops. So we went up to the train stations all the way in sunny Wales, and we gave it to people. And we said, look, just observe them, see how they use it, see what the problems are, see where things come up, and use that as feedback to make changes on your app. We also got him to use accessibility archetypes, which is very, very different to the generic personas of someone who's 20, 25, earns 50K, and blah, blah, blah. It was thinking about what accessibility issues these groups of people in this age range could have. So things like whether it's visibility issues, whether it's familiarity with new technologies, whether they're lifestyle choices. Are these people, are they active people? Are they people who prefer to be indoors? How does that trigger their anxiety when they're planning these journeys? And I also had to do a lot of user-centered design training with the company, because one of the things that came up is when we went through the user testing, Freddie had all these insights and was sharing it with the company. And the problem is the company didn't really quite relate. They kind of saw some photos, but they weren't there. So I had to go and talk to all the developers as well about user-centered design, which you all are familiar with, and how to put user at the core of any design decisions. And that was to kind of bring the synergy. So every time we had a user workshop, we'd come back, and there would be less friction of what changes we need to make. Now, the outcome was that he completely changed his feature set, and the feature set was aligned against the user intentions, to the point of view of where the app actually split into 2 sections. So planning your journey in advance, and you can do virtual tours, to actually then being in the station and getting assisted help. So if you need help with the customer care, booking your train tickets, things like that was kind of separated into 2 based on what we found out. And the big commercial success for him is that he actually won 10 bids for UK stations. So Transport for Wales are now actually rolling this out, and it's going to be a big thing. I think it's going to come out next month. So that was great. And for the users, it reduced their cognitive load. So it was easier for them to use. So I'm going to quickly jump into the second case study, because I don't know how much time I have. How much time do I have left? 7 minutes, 8 minutes, okay, right. So really, really quickly. So here the story is Laura. And Laura came to us and she said, look, I've been inspired by my nan. My nan has these ugly things called grab rails and she doesn't like them. For those who don't know what a grab rail is, it's one of these, and I'm sure everyone's seen these things around. And the quote she had is, they're hideous, they make me feel old, they're embarrassing, they don't go with my outfits or my home. but I'm getting older and I need to have these ugly things in my house, you know. And grab rails, the reason why they exist is to prevent falls. So again, a company, crisis mode, this is the solution they came up with. So she was raring to go. She was like, okay, well, if we just make them, you know, not plastic, sleek, clean, then we can kind of go ahead and manufacture these products. And I said, okay, yeah, that's great, but I think we need to go back and look at the real problem space, which is home. You know, where do people need these products in the home? In the bathroom, kitchen? Let's find out a bit more about where we can put these in the house. And I got her to go and do home observations and use journey maps and see people navigate. One of the cool things that she found out is that people, if this was a wall, people, instead of using any rails, they'd kind of like slide against the wall to get to their garden, which is a big alarming thing. That led to her finding out that actually getting access to the garden was a driver for this age group. They really wanted to be outside. So then that led to her coming up with user-centered design, ideas, doing iterative testing, and then we actually got them to do some prototypes with virtual headsets. That was a big thing because originally the company thought, oh, they're not going to want to put on these virtual headsets, you know. The stigma came back. And I said, no, let's ask them. And I think we had 12 people turned up, and only one said no. 11 of them were so excited to put on this virtual headset and say, oh, I want to see these garden products. I want to kind of feel. And it was great, you know, just to overcome that stigma that we originally had. The outcome for her is that she developed a garden range instead of doing the traditional grab rail redesign. And these are some things that are coming out. They're coming out in B&Q very, very soon. And now she's actually positioned her company as being a market leader for inclusive design because she found that people who had disabilities who were younger than 60 also wanted these same products. So I don't know how much time I've got left, but I'm going to be very, very quick. So what specific steps must we take to solve this ageism before design problem? And I would say that it's to bring lived experiences in. So people who are living with these experiences, whether that's accessibility, age, whatever that case is, bring them in and talk to them. I would say definitely start with the user's needs. You know, accessibility checklist at the end of the concept phase is not like a tick box exercise. It shouldn't work like that. You know, you should actually predominantly start from the point of understanding where the gaps are for this audience and then design for their core needs. We've touched on this already. So there's loads of inclusive design and accessibility toolkits out there. Recognize them and know how to use them. Some of them that we spoke about already. And the one thing I want to add to that is there's this really cool tool that I learned in the Royal College of Arts, which is evaluate the end result. You know, it's not to focus on the tool that's being used, but the end experience that's being created. And think about, are you enabling this audience to use this experience? Are you enriching them from this experience? And are you empowering them? Which are completely different words that are typically used of, do they like it, yes or no? Can they use it, yes or no? So, 5 things I want to share with you very quickly of my learnings of the crash course in the Royal College of Arts. When you're designing for this demographic, this audience, never underestimate their capabilities and knowledge. There are so many things I learned just from talking to them and hearing their experiences. Don't make them think, which is great, I think, actually, because I don't like to think either. So if you're creating something that doesn't make them think, you're making it easier for anyone else who might be like me and doesn't want to think too hard about how to make something work and how to make something how to use something. Number 3, they are brutally honest. Like, it's unreal how honest they are. I think they get to a stage where they just don't care what you think and they just tell you, which is really good, you don't have to guess. And if they are a little bit more, I would say, English in the way that they're not forthcoming with everything, somehow when you see them struggle with something, that's a sign that it's, again, of being brutally honest. Number 2, there was higher value in moving research to the beginning of the process, and I think everyone else has covered that as well, but not making it an afterthought, bringing that research, those lived experiences at the beginning. And number 1, as designers, we have to act as catalysts for change, you know, and look beyond the status quo of what a 60 and above-year-old is. So I just want to end with this quote with Iris Apfel. She was a 90-year-old fashion designer. Unfortunately, she died this year, but you know, this quote is great, and I think it sums up my talk of, if you're not interested, you're not going to make the solution interesting. Okay? So that's it. Hopefully I'm on time.